Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahak Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai, double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well, and peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video. And in this video, I'm going to just be going into a few articles to document the continual, economic decline of the United States of America, which is biblically known as Babylon the Great. And what we're about to read in these articles is, hey, biblical prophecy taking place right before your very eyes, because we truly are living in the last days, really the last seconds of the last days before Esau Edom, the so-called white man, is taken out of power, and his chief stronghold is the United States of America. But the first article I'll be going on is on the aptly titled economiccollapseblog.com, titled "A Retail Apocalypse is Gaining Momentum All Over America. Is Your Favorite Chain Closing Stores?" And it was published on August 11th of 2024, the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble. Why are retailers closing thousands of stores if the U.S. economy is in good shape, which it's not? A couple of weeks ago, you had the stock market drop, 1,000 points, and it had a lot of people, sell off assets because they feared that the U.S. economy was facing a slowdown and recession, which, what's coming to the U.S. economy is going to be a greater depression than the Great Depression of the 1930s. Of course, the truth is that the U.S. economy is not in good shape at all. The cost of living crisis is absolutely crushing working families all over the nation, and the U.S. consumers simply don't have as much discretionary income as they once did. Hey, you got a lot of people out here living paycheck to paycheck and having to make tough decisions. Am I going to pay my car note this month and neglect my, food bill? Am I going to pay rent but neglect my internet? Am I going to go without heat or air conditioning this month? Et cetera, et cetera. Needless to say, our retailers are highly dependent on discretionary spending, and many of them have been reporting very disappointing sales numbers recently. Sadly, the problem that our retailers are experiencing are only going to intensify as the U.S. economic activity continues to slow down. According to CBS News, U.S. retailers have announced the closing of more than 3,000 locations in 2024. The retail industry is going through a tough time as it copes with inflation-weary consumers and a rash of bankruptcies, prompting chains to announce the closures of almost 3,200 brick-and-mortar stores so far in 2024, according to a new analysis. That's a 24% increase from a year ago, according to a report from a retail data provider, CoreSite, which tracks store closures and openings across the U.S. The closing of 3,200 stores sounds really bad, but it is important to note that the quote above is from a CBS News story that was published on May 13th. Since that time, there have been a lot more store closing announcements. And let's get a precept. This is Ecclesiastes in the Bible, chapter 12, verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, talking about these economists. And when you go into the etymology of the word economy, it means housekeeping. And we, again, saw a couple of weeks ago that a lot of these keepers of the house were trembling due to that historic drop of 1,000 points in the stock market. And the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders or workers cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. And why would the grinders be ceasing? Due to a lot of businesses shutting down and a lot of workers getting laid off. And the doors shall be shut in the streets. What are we reading about in that article? Thousands upon thousands of retail chains and other businesses closing locations when the sound of the grinding or working is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird. People waking up early to find a job, but there's no jobs or grinding to be had, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. And hey, the music in 2024 is complete garbage. All I gotta say is Sexy Red. For example, last week we learned that Big Lots plans to close nearly 300 stores. 2 months after announcing plans to close about 40 stores nationwide due to financial woes, Big Lots has indicated on its website it intends to close almost 300 stores. The discount retailer announced in June it was facing several areas of financial strain that would result in 35 to 40 stores closing across the country. However, an audit of the Big Lots website on August 2nd reveals almost 300 stores are slated to close in the United States, including 18 in New England. Meanwhile, a home goods retailer that has been in business since 1890 is preparing to permanently shut down over 170 stores. A home goods retailer is closing all of its more than 170 stores after filing for bankruptcy. Conn's Home Plus, based in Woodlands, Texas, operates stores in 15 states, including 11 in Louisiana. The company began in 1890 in Beaumont, Texas. The Conn's Home Plus store on Derrick Drive in Lake Charles is included in the closures. Bergdorf Interiors has been in business for even longer, but now they have also reached the end of the road. Bergdorf Interiors, a 157-year-old local business, is shutting down, according to Louisville Business First. The company announced the closure in a news release Wednesday. It's with a heavy heart that we are announcing the closing of the Bergdorf Interiors, the release said. The business has been open in several locations throughout Louisville since 1867. Just think about that. They opened their doors just after the end of the Civil War, and now it is all over. It's fitting. They opened up after the Civil War, and they're closing before the Second Civil War in the United States of America begins. Drugstore chains have been hit particularly hard by our ongoing retail apocalypse. Rite Aid was once a retail powerhouse that was expanding like crazy, but now they plan to close 780 stores. Rite Aid, which was based in East Pennsboro Township near Camp Hill for decades and is now based in Philadelphia, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in October to begin restructuring to significantly reduce its debt. Since October, the company has announced in bankruptcy filings the closing of 780 stores. Of course, Dollar Tree has Rite Aid beat. During the course of the next few years, Dollar Tree plans to close almost 1,000 stores. Dollar Tree on Wednesday said it plans to close nearly 1,000 stores over the next several years after disclosing significant losses in its latest earnings report. The discount store chain lost $1.7 billion in the fourth quarter, down sharply from earnings of $452.2 million a year ago. Unfortunately, this is just the beginning. Hey, as it says in Matthew chapter 24, verse 8, this is just the beginning of sorrows. It's going to get a hell of a lot worse from here on out. Analysts at UBS are projecting that approximately 45,000 stores will be permanently shut down in the U.S. during the years in front of us. About 45,000 retail stores may close in the coming years as retail's physical footprint increasingly shifts to serve as fulfillment and distribution centers, UBS analysts led by Michael Lasser said in an April 22nd report. Can you imagine what that is going to look like? That's it with this article. But hey, we can clearly see that the doors in the streets are being shut up, which is leading to the grinding ceasing, which leads me to my next article, also on the economiccollapseblog.com. Vast stretches of America are so depressed that they look like something out of a horror movie. The wealthy are doing just fine at the moment, but they don't seem to understand that much of the country is deeply hurting right now. 59% of Americans believe that the U.S. economy is currently experiencing a recession, and that is because most of them are personally experiencing economic pain. Literally just about everything is substantially more expensive in 2024. More major layoffs are being announced with each passing day, and thousands of businesses are going bankrupt. We haven't seen a tsunami of economic suffering like this in a long time. If you live in a wealthy area in a good part of the country, you may wonder what all the fuss is about. If you and everyone around you is still doing well, life may still seem quite good. But the truth is that there are vast stretches of this country that are so depressed that they literally look like something out of a horror movie. There are many countries that are so plagued by poverty, drugs, homelessness, violence, and theft that it seems like there is no possible way that things could ever turn around, which, they're not going to turn around. This is exactly what the elites, such as the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers want. They're liquidating America. They want to bring about that great reset, the fourth industrial revolution, their NW0, where the Constitution, democracy, and the American way of life is a thing of the past. You will own nothing and be happy, and you will be using CBDCs or central bank digital currencies, which the only way you're going to be able to access and operate in society is with that RFID/NFC C-HIP implant, which is the MARKOFTHEBEAST in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, when your hand are in your forehead. A man named Drew Binsky recently visited one of the poorest parts of West Virginia, and he discovered that most of the people there are living in poverty. Most of the residents live below the poverty line, and life expectancy is well below the national average. Many families rely on government assistance just to get by, and there's limited access to health care. Today, tens of millions of Americans are heavily dependent on the checks that they get from the government each month. In areas where most people have lost hope of ever finding a better life, drug addiction often runs rampant, and that is precisely what Binsky witnessed. He also notes that crystal meth and fentanyl addictions run wild in the state, while many people are living so isolated they have their own dialect. The content creator starts his journey in Bluefield, and as he wanders through the once prosperous manufacturing city, he says it feels like he has stepped into a forgotten world. He continues, empty streets and closed shops stretch as far as the eye can see. It's like life just stopped. This is Isaiah chapter 24. I'm going to read verses 7 to 11. The new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth, all the merry-hearted do sigh. And what did it say at the beginning of my second article? That around 59% of Americans think that we are currently in a recession. And, a lot of parts of the country have people, that are jobless, homeless, and addicted to hardcore drugs. People are hurting out here in the United States of America. The mirth of the tabrets ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. A lot of people don't have the extra money to go out and enjoy the weekend. They're penny pinching and worried whether they're going to be able to eat, every day out of the week, or if they're going to be able to stay in their house or apartment, the next month. They shall not drink wine with the song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. And people ain't really drinking like that anymore to celebrate a job promotion, or have a good time. They're drinking, as we just read, doing drugs to drown out the sorrow of the situation they're currently living in. The city of confusion is broken down, and the word Babylon, which in the Hebrew is Babel, means confusion by mixing. And like I said at the beginning of the video, the United States of America is known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures. So the city of confusion, Babylon, America, is broken down, as we can clearly see with all these job layoffs and businesses shutting down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. Businesses out, so what? They're boarded up and they're derelict buildings. There's a crying for wine in the streets, and that's talking about understanding. All joy is darkened, the mirth of the land is gone. And people are looking for answers. What are we going to do? How are things going to get better? Hence why so many people are invested in this upcoming presidential election. People honestly believe that, if their candidate loses, hey, their way of life is going to come to an end. But America is on a permanent path towards foreclosure. And the only wine or understanding out here is the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of these scriptures, which, as it says in Isaiah chapter 33, verse 6, is going to be the knowledge, wisdom, and stability for these terrible times of Jacob's trouble that we're quickly coming into. The content creator starts his journey in Blufeld, and as he wanders through the once prosperous manufacturing city, he says it feels like he has stepped into a forgotten world. He continues, empty streets and closed shops. The doors in the streets are shut up. What it say back in Ecclesiastes. Yeah, the doors in the street shall be shut up, and every house is shut up that no man may come in. He continues, empty streets and closed shops stretch as far as the eye can see. It's like life just stopped. This is where the entire country is heading. Just a few days ago, I wrote about the retail apocalypse that is rapidly spreading across America. Thousands upon thousands of stores are closing, and most of those abandoned stores will not be filled anytime soon, that no man may come in. But at least they will make convenient locations for drug addicts to gather. According to one woman that Binksy interviewed, 30% of the people in her community are into illegal drugs. One woman in the store tells the camera crew, "We're the poorest county in the United States, or we were. About 30% of our community are dopers, druggies, more than 30%. The same conditions are being repeated in rural community after rural community all over America. Sadly, the standard of living in our rural communities is going to continue to go down because the cost of living just keeps going up. The cost of frozen, non-carbonated juices and drinks has risen by 19.2% from July 2023, the most of any grocery item. Eggs, meanwhile, have increased by 19.1% in price, and frankfurters are now 9.7% more expensive. The cost of bacon, beef roasts, pork chops, and butter have also risen notably in the last year. But hey, it's cheap to eat the bugs. In terms of non-food items, car insurance is the biggest riser in the last year with an 18.6% price hike. And hey, I can definitely, relate to that because my car insurance has gone up by, damn near $60. But now I'm going to go to Revelation chapter 6. I'm going to start at verse 5. This is dealing with the so-called four horsemen of the apocalypse, which just is, talking about different situations that would be taking place during the last days. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And when we go into that word penny in the Strongs, it's G1220, denarion. And in the outline of biblical usage, it says a Roman silver coin in New Testament time. It took its name from it being equal to 10 asses, which was another Roman coin. It was originally bronze, then it became copper. Hey, what does that sound like? The metals being cut with other metals. Currency devaluation. It happened in ancient Rome, and it's happening in this modern day Rome as well. America's currency is being devalued due to what? All this money printing. A number after 217 BC increased to 16, about 3.898 grams or 1375 ounces. It was the principal silver coin of the Roman Empire, and the US dollar is the principal, currency of this Roman Empire we're in. Here's the main point. From the parable of the laborers in the vineyard, it would seem that a denarius was then the ordinary pay for a day's wages, because in the ancient world, and according to the law and the scriptures, you paid a man for the work he did that same day. It's not like this wicked system we live in where people, most people are paid every 2 weeks. So what is this saying? A measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny, using damn near your entire paycheck to buy groceries, buy any other goods, pay your bills, etc., etc. We have already reached a stage where a large portion of the population cannot even afford the basics. As I shared yesterday, I was absolutely shocked to learn that 39% of Americans have been forced to skip meals so that they will have enough money to make their housing payments. A measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny. 39% of Americans say they've skipped meals to make housing payments, per Clever Real Estate Survey. And among millennials, that figure rose to 44%. Among baby boomers, it was 20%. It is no wonder why so many voters are so deeply frustrated with the current state of the economy. This is our country now, and the outlook for the future is not positive at all. In fact, it appears that very alarming changes are starting to happen in the employment market as large companies lay off large numbers of workers. Another domino falls for recession as job creation turns negative for small businesses, which employed nearly half of all Americans. In the past, payrolls for companies with under 50 employees plunged by nearly 100,000, while job trends were flat for mid-sized businesses up to 500 employees. The only bright spot was big businesses, which might be changing given recent layoff announcements, including 2,500 at Chrysler, 4,000 at Cisco, 12,000 at Dell, and 15,000 at Intel. Paramount and the left-wing Axios both cut 10 to 15% of their workforce. Hey, this brings me to my last precept. This is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 15. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt. And another name for the United States of America is a spiritual Egypt as well, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. So neither shall there be any work for America. And as we just read in those last couple of paragraphs, many companies are laying off, hundreds and thousands of employees. And why is that? Because what? The economic conditions out here are declining. So a lot of businesses are having to cut off the fat so they don't risk, having to shut down, the stores and the streets being shut up so that no man may come in, which the head or tail, those that have better jobs higher up in society, or the tail, those that work jobs on the lower end of the economic spectrum. So people all across, the U.S., economy and class system are going to be feeling the pinch from this economic deterioration, Branch or Rush may do. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere, Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. As we can clearly see, we are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Mabol, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.